at training, the kicking for goal, the accuracy wasn't great last week. Was that something to do with it?
Oh, we've been doing it for 5 or 6 weeks, and the coaches have been besting the players, to be honest. But the players got one up on us today, and we had to eat a wheat bick. So that was our penalty.
Did you kick the goal?
No, I was one of the ones that missed.
Yeah.
It was probably one of the lesser ones. It was probably one of those ones in the back of our head. If there was one to lose, that was it. The boys' beards are looking good though. No, we want that to continue.
We've set to make the one change this week, at least with Alex. Who's in the frame to take his spot?
Oh look, our VFL had a bye last week, but we're relatively healthy, so we know that we've got options to go to. Probably. Callum Brown and Josh Dacos have both been performing pretty well. Ben Crocker's thereabouts, Mason Cox, Chris Mayne himself. So we've probably got 5 or 6 guys there that have been performing well. Jackson Ramsey behind the ball. So I mean that's to name a few, but we're relatively healthy. So it's a good position for the match committee to be in when you've got options.
And how did Darcy Moore train? I noticed he's a bit sore after the last game.
No, he's fine. It's good.
I know the club indicated that Alex would be training throughout this period, but still, nonetheless, good to see him out there today.
Yeah, and look, Alex has been exemplary in the way that his openness in his communication of his depression, and that's only recently come about for him, the knowledge of and letting people in on it. But we've got great people at the footy club that are experts in this area that will continue to work with him and other boys and staff around the area of mental health. He's a great fella, Faz, and he's shown a lot of maturity with the way that he's opened up to deal with it. And we're proud of him and we're proud of the club with the way that we're going about it.
Do you echo the thoughts of some other coaches that believe the scrutiny on players never been more intense?
Oh, look, there's no doubt that there's high scrutiny, but I think I think we're drawing a connection between that and mental health, and there's plenty of other reasons why there might be that people might be at dis-ease mentally, and I think making the assumption that it's scrutiny that brings it about is flawed. There's plenty of people in the general population that struggle. With mental health or depression in some shape or form. 1 in 5 is the number that's thrown around, and if that's true for us, then we've got 8 or 9 players that even though they might not be truly aware of it or they might not have opened up about it, that have a mental health issue. It means we've got 10 to 12 staff members in the footy department that are going through it. It means that 2 or 3 of you boys are. So that's a reality. But the scrutiny's high, but there's that's always going to be there. It's not going away.
What about the scathing nature of social media?
Oh, look, social media it's not a new phenomenon. It's been around for a while, but there's no doubt that it's a part of life now. So it's something that players, staff at footy clubs, people in general. I'm sure you guys would get a bit of feedback on social media. So we're not isolated in that regard, but it's one of many parts of life that can impact a person or a professional or someone in the public eye, and I reckon secondary school kids are going through it as well. I mean, it's a reality, and it's a societal issue.
How long have you been aware that Alex had been struggling for?
Officially, about a week and a bit, and as I said, I thought it just showed great courage for him the way that he's handled it. Unfortunately, there's still a lot of ignorance around that space, and in particular in this case. But the headlines Fasolo walks away yesterday it's just wrong. It's Fasolo stands up. He's actually standing up for himself. He's standing up for. He's actually saying, I need support here. I need assistance, rather than closing himself down and being the big guy who thinks he can look after everything himself. I mean, he's a fine young bloke, and he knows he's got great support around him, and it's been courageous for him to put his hand up and say, hey, I don't know if I can deal with this on my own, and I think it's a good example to many.
I guess from the outside, he seems like such a bubbly, funny, charismatic bloke. So for us, I guess it was quite a shock to hear that. I guess the lesson is it really can affect him, isn't it?
Well, he is. He is an energetic, bubbly guy, and that's who Faz is, which is great. But you don't judge a book by its cover. I mean, there's plenty going on, and you need to look beyond what's going on at the surface to really find out about how people are and what's going on. So, yeah, we've made that a strong focus at our footy club. Yeah, for my time as a senior coach, and it's built, and I know that we've got really strong support mechanisms. People might, in a welfare sense, but we're engaging the players. It's a player engagement responsibility, and by that we're saying we're in a partnership with the individuals. We're not holding their hand as such, but we're in a partnership with them for them to prosper on and off the field.
Mark Robinson has since apologised, but he made a fairly insensitive tweet this morning. What was your take on that?
I've heard about it, and I mean that's probably a little bit of, it's clearly ignorant, but it's not. This isn't about one person or another. I mean, we can make it about Alex Fasolo, you can make it about Mark Robinson, but it's not about one or another. And our major focus is on Alex's well-being and all our players and staff, and we'll continue to try and be as balanced as we possibly can with their support of that. And some of that is ignoring comments that are less than helpful.
But is that an example of perhaps the ignorance that you were talking about?
Potentially, yeah.
Are you confident it might only be just the 1 week he might miss, or is it too hard to tell at the moment?
Yeah, well, his effort to play, to put his hand up and play off the back of his challenges late last week was sensational. I mean, but at the same time, if it wasn't something that he wanted to do, we wouldn't have asked. He wouldn't have been asked to play. He was adamant that he wanted to play last week, and he's pretty clear in his mind that he needs a bit of a breather. So, but and there's going to be a bit of focus about this long after the questions about Faz have finished. It will still be an issue for him, and it will still be something that we will address, not just with Alex, but with other players and with other people. So, whilst it's front of mind for a lot of people at the moment, it's not going away. So we'll continue to make the right decisions and put as much support as we can around people.
Does it highlight that we need to further educate our staff within the football clubs, and not just football clubs, but general society?
Yeah, I think it's just so easy for us to fall into judgments and think that we can see one part of a person or one action and think that is them, and then to be critical of it. It's a slippery slope. It's not just footy, but you still want to have an opinion. You've still got to get to the guts of the matter. We've got a right to discuss issues of a public nature, but I think we just need to keep an open mind and be sensitive to the fact that there quite often are things going on behind the scenes that people need to deal with. It's not an excuse for bad behaviour, and it's not an excuse for poor decisions, but it's something that you need to consider.
Do you think that players are much more comfortable in seeking help now than they say were when you were playing?
I hope so. And there's been some really strong advocates, and I think that that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing. As I said, it's the prevalence is a lot greater than we suspect. So the conversation is good, and in this case, I'm happy to talk about it now. But it's, I think, Faz is just one of many, and we don't know who we're talking about. But there is a mass of people that are at disease at times, and we need to keep looking out for each other, basically.
Do you welcome the club's review of the whole entire club? And when you heard about it, when did you hear about it, and what were your thoughts? Yeah,
look, I was notified probably about a week and a half ago that we were going to go through that process in a run-of-the-mill leaders meeting, and I think whilst it's probably very similar to the situation we were just discussing. As soon as it becomes public, well then it's assumed that you're never looking at improving or reviewing at any other stage. I mean, we do that constantly, but I think it's a great decision by the board to continue to look at what the competition is asking of us, what the environment is asking of us, where we stack up in different areas, and what are the major contributors to success going forward. And to do that, you need to do it. It's a preview or a blueprint as it's been communicated, but it's also a review on, okay, what are the major contributors to our success or otherwise to this point in recent times, and to what we're doing today. So I think it's very healthy, and I welcome it. Yeah.
Does it bring about extra pressure though, do you think?
No.
Mark Thompson said last night, though, he went through it in 06 and he believed it was a bit unfair, and he believes it will bring extra pressure to you. What do you make of those comments?
I can't see how there can be any more extra pressure.
Well, speaking of on-field, I mean, it's, you look at the ladder. A potential win this week could have you just percentage outside the 8. It's a pretty funny season, isn't it?
Yeah, and we've spoken about it quite regularly. It's very tight, and you've just got to keep besting your opposition each week. And our opponents this week have been able to do that more often than not. Their last 8 weeks they've won 6 games and have been able to best their opposition, as often as anyone has in the competition over the last 8 weeks. So we're under no illusions about what we're coming up against. They lowered their colours last week, so they're going to be smarting from that. There's a bit of a rebound possibility from that. But as I said, we'll really focus on what we're bringing to the table, because I feel like we're starting to get more consistency and understanding ourselves a little bit better and what we're capable of, and we want to continue exploring that.
You said it's a very tight season, but I mean, of all the teams that you've come up against, are Freo one of the hardest teams to sort of just get a read on, given, I mean, I think they're 6-4 with a percentage of 80. I mean, have you found that in your analysis heading into the game this week?
Generally, you're preparing for the opposition's best, and you definitely got an idea of where you think the opportunities lie for you against that opponent. You've got to have contingency plans though, because it doesn't always go the way that you'd like it to go, and that's a game of footy. So leadership's called on field, in the coach's box on match day, to be able to execute what you want. But Freo, we're under no illusions there. Dominant ruck, strong mids, very strong defensive setup, and great intensity with some of the young blokes that have come in that are adding real bite around the ball.
But you're coming up against Fremantle on the back of Ross Lyon's biggest loss as coach. Yeah. Do you think that makes him a bit vulnerable at all, or do you think the side coming off a big loss usually performs a lot better?
That's now in the past. It's now history. They would have reviewed. We've reviewed. We're looking at the entirety of the last couple of months, not just last week.
You mentioned 5 players potentially coming in for Alex.
Yeah.
Colin Brown and Josh should obviously be pretty exciting for Collingwood supporters if they did come in. What's the chances?
Do you want me to now isolate the percentage chances of all those 5? Look, they're performing. They're starting to put some form together. Callum in particular, these last couple of games through mid and high forward has been really strong, and I think one of the things that happens with this increased focus on footy in particular is, and we see some young blokes sort of come in first year and have massive impact on the AFL environment. They're sort of looking around saying, well, the bloke I played with last year in the TAC's played 12 games. When am I going to get my chance? Well, it comes off the back of consistent form and an opportunity. There'll be opportunities for those guys, and it could come sooner than later. But in the meantime, we're really throwing a lot of development into them and giving them every opportunity to become long-term AFL footballers, not just about the next couple of weeks.
This is, you mentioned earlier, you feel like you're getting possibly the consistency there. I think it's the first time in 11 months you've won back-to-back games. Like, is that probably a good indicator of possibly things starting to come together?
Yeah, it is. I mean, we didn't play footy for about 5 or 6 of those months, so it was pretty hard.
Still a long time.
It's
still a long time.
We'd like to do it again.